Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor, and I'm so glad we have Black Belt Barrister here. Daniel, welcome back. You were here, and I asked you for another 8 minutes because I want to ask you about these perjury charges. Now, a lot of people are going out there saying, well, she's already got some perjury charges pending. Amber has them in Australia based on what we know, and we know that seems legit. They're still looking into it. But now that the U.S. trial has shown that, you know, there was a defamation charge, a lot of lawyers here, a lot of people elsewhere are all speculating on, can they go back to the UK? Is there any process that can then reevaluate, did Amber Heard perjure herself and lie under oath? I want to get your thoughts. Is this all just something wishful thinking that will happen, or do you think there is a path to perjury charges in the UK?
Well, let's start with this. It's always possible. The possibility is there. There is the mechanism there to do this. It's normally reserved for, let's say, someone that is trying to obstruct a prosecution or obstruct a case and deliberately lie. So it's normally when a person is caught out in a lie when the state is trying to move a case forward. Let's take a random driving offense, and we have what we call penalty points. If one person's trying to take points for another person, it's obviously the wrong person. And if the state finds out, they then come to prosecute them for perverting the course of justice. Perverting the course of justice is perjury. It's principally lying to the court. It is making a false statement, usually under oath or usually just an official statement, which perverts the natural cause of justice. So the mechanism is always there. It doesn't usually happen in retrospect. So if you have a trial and let's say someone's made allegations and they are unfounded, it's normally the trial is heard, the allegations are not made out, and everyone goes on their merry way. Now, at least, maths will tell you at least half of the people that within those trials find that unfair, because the people that are subject of false allegations think, well, hang on a minute, this person has lied and the court has made a finding of fact that this was not true. Now, there's two ways of looking at this. Either the court didn't make a finding of fact that they were true, or that they found that they were untrue. And there's a slight difference in those two. One is just it didn't meet the threshold. One is we've decided and you were lying. Now, if it's the latter, the court's decided and they were lying, then that makes it much more likely for a charge of perjury. Now, there's an interesting point here, which this is a bit like throwing out some kind of explosive and see what happens. But it is always possible for individuals to raise a private prosecution against somebody else if there is a crime that has occurred. Now, it can always be taken over by the state and controlled by the state, but individuals can do that. And so long as there is a crime, an offense that's taken place and sufficient evidence, it's always possible. Some companies run their own private prosecutions, mail companies. We have our Royal Mail. They run their own prosecutions. They prosecute their own staff sometimes for stealing mail instead of the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, which is our state prosecutorial body. So companies do that if their employees are stealing and so on. So there are always avenues that people can be prosecuted for these things. And in a case such as this, again, which is why I mentioned my petition in my other videos, if enough people think it should happen, then there's certainly a possibility that it can happen.
So you're saying, basically what I'm hearing is if enough of us were like, you know what, we're gonna pursue this, rally some funds, whatever it is, we could put up a petition to proceed to charge Amber Heard with perjury charges. Johnny wouldn't even have to do it.
Indeed, it's certainly possible. Yes.
Well, that's interesting.
And that's one of the. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that. No, go ahead. I'm just saying I'm intrigued. Consider me intrigued. Do you feel like it would have a case? Like, do we have a case? Is there enough evidence where you feel like she has proven herself? Would the U.S. trial be able to be brought in as evidence? Would the Australia incident be able to be brought in? Would there be enough instances, do you think, already to prove, or would we need some sort of more bigger smoking gun to warrant it really having any success?
Well, for me, there's more than one element that could be brought into question. One that could be brought into question is this idea of pledge and donate and what that means, because in the UK trial, I forget which of her sort of 7 or 8 witness statements it was, but she said that she donated all the money. And obviously in the US trial, there was this whole pledge and donate debate as to whether or not, I mean, she knew whether she'd actually sent that money or not. And the question mark there could be, well, was she deliberately misleading the court in the statements that she did provide in the UK trial? Was she deliberately misleading the court? Because if in fact that was a lie, then that would obviously should have had a serious impact on the UK judgment. So did that then, pervert the course of justice in the UK? That's a serious question mark. That's probably one of the biggest question marks. But also any of the other elements of the credibility, albeit no doubt the counter to that will be that the judge in this case went through those elements of credibility and ultimately discounted them. But if now, let's say, you can cherry pick evidence that has come out in the US trial that undermines, directly contradicts any of those points of credibility, and if they prove that she lied to the court in any event, in any circumstance, then either one of those is perverting the course of justice. And so either one of those, if founded, would support a charge.
Yeah, I mean, she was mixing up dates. Let's talk about the charity donations that she went on the tour to sort of say that there's countless evidence of her being caught in her lies. There's also recently a big charge about the fact that she said she paid a certain amount of money, which Elaine, mentioned to the jury, but apparently that some are saying, well, that's a lie because the insurance company actually paid for it. We could argue semantics, well, it was mine, et cetera, but that wasn't the money coming out of Amber Heard's pocket as they sort of tried to play. There was a lot of spinning and playing. So it sounds like, and there's still maybe more that come out. We're still waiting to hear from the jurors if there's anything else sort of they were able to catch or anything else. Clearly you're saying there's a lot, and that I noticed as you were saying it, you do have a petition on here that I'm happy to endorse. This petition is to basically reopen the appeal in the UK, which would basically do what we're saying. No?
Yes, well, ideally, because I mean, ordinarily, to reopen an appeal, which includes permission to appeal, which is relevant to the UK judgment, because it was permission to appeal that was refused, but the rules provide for reopening an appeal and permission to appeal. Ordinarily, it's got to be done by an application, but the court can make orders of its own motion. And either Johnny Depp or his lawyers make this application to reopen based on everything that's happened, or the court does it of its own motion. I prefer the court does it of its own motion on the basis that this is such a disparity between these two decisions. And so much has come out in the US trial that supports that this is a real injustice. And this is the wording which I've quoted on this page, further down the page. The rules provide that if it's a real injustice, then that's one of the factors the court will look at to reopen an appeal or permission to appeal. And this was, in that case, Taylor Lawrence of 2002, where the Court of Appeal confirmed that this does apply to reopening appeals like this.
Sorry, I was trying to find that statement in there, but yeah, I will put this link in the description down below. Let's go ahead and sign it. I mean, I'm curious though. Do you think Johnny wants this? I mean, to me, this case has gotten almost bigger than Johnny in a way. I mean, in covering it on my end, I've had so many survivors or warriors, as we call them, just call out and they're just so angry at not only Amber but Elaine and this whole publicity tour that they're currently on, basically trying to justify and ignore the verdict that we got justice to say, well, the UK trial, it's the case of two trials is what Elaine keeps trying to spin of, well, we know he's guilty because the UK said it and these people are all wrong. And it's really frustrating and disservice and to all these other victims who've actually suffered. And we don't believe Amber did. Not because we're Johnny fans, not because of politics, which a lot of people want to spin it into, but because of the evidence, right? The tapes, the tapes, Amber's testimony, it was all over the place. There were a lot of discrepancies. She changed her story, just the way she gave it. It just wasn't, no one bought it. She did a disservice to victims in that she, in our opinion, made it up. And so I think a lot of people want to stand up for that right to say, no, enough is enough. And the media that's spinning it, this isn't even really just about Johnny. It's about, we're not going to accept this type of behavior anymore. And this spin by the mainstream media to just try to, well, let's use the UK trial as our reason why we can do all this, because that one judge found her innocent. What is your thought? Do you think this is an important thing to do? Or do you think potentially we're maybe going above and beyond too much?
It's an interesting question, and it's a very interesting point. And to some extent, I mean, I obviously don't know the answer because I haven't spoken to Johnny. If Johnny wants to reach out, by the way, if he ever ends up watching this, then reach out to me. I'd love to chat. But,
yeah, we will handle it all for you. Exactly.
But I'm sure on some level, Johnny is now done with it.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not. Maybe he would like this to be looked at again in the UK. I don't know. I'd love to know, but certainly from my perspective, because I don't know, I felt that at the very least, I want enough people to say, yeah, we think this should be looked at again. Even if it's not, even if nothing happens, even if Johnny says, look, I don't want this to happen. I feel that it was my way of reaching out because I feel strongly about this. As I wrote in the petition, that I feel that enough people need to just at least sign it to say, I agree with this, because I agree with everything you've just said. Because as a barrister, I've been in family cases where there's been disputes and there's been violence between parties. I've seen in my view is prejudice against one party and another, and it has to stop because allegations can be real, they can be false, and they can be either way round. So this has to be about the truth. It has to be about justice. That's why my wife came on the channel yesterday on that video to speak up and say, this is what I think as well. She had to come on and say her piece and say this is about the truth and justice, and truth matters. Because you're right. I mean, I'm all for the Me Too movement in the sense that people should speak up if they have genuine complaints and they want to make allegations that are true and founded, and they shouldn't be put off by doing so when someone makes a false allegation. And if that's what's happened here, and it's being spread about as you put it, a news spin and doing the rounds, this is only going to deter people from actually coming forward. It's going to have the opposite effect.
Yep.
It's not going to encourage people to come forward. It's going to make them think worse about it. This should be seen as a case where she was taken seriously. It went to trial. It went to trial for 6 weeks. I took days off work, of going out and doing my work to watch key bits of this trial because I felt it so important. So it was taken seriously, but the jury didn't believe the allegations. And that's what it comes down to. So I would hate for anyone, and if anyone is watching and you are subject to this, don't be put off by coming forward about what's happening. You must still come forward. You must still trust people like me, a lawyer that will listen to you and will present the case for you. It has to be done properly.
Well said. Couldn't have said it better. And I just signed it myself, and I hope you guys will too. Let's get the word out there. Should this be done? Make sure we put it in the description as well, the pinned comment, and share the word on this and see what we do. And Johnny, again, or Johnny's team, let us know. Do you want us to be more loud about this? Do you want us to just back down? Have you gotten what you needed? Honestly, that'll deter which way I go with this as fervently. But I appreciate what you're doing here, and I appreciate your insight, and I look forward to more conversations. Guys, make sure, again, if you haven't already, go subscribe to Black Belt Barrister over on YouTube. Give him some love. Tell him Popcorn Planet sent you. You can also follow him over on Twitter at D. Shen Smith there. Love when you guys connect me with awesome people like this, and love to come on your channel anytime. I'd love to have you back on live. And like I said,
anytime.
If you haven't watched his video about the UK trial, do, or you can watch our breakdown all of it, that will cue you there as well. And I'd love to have you back, almost go through all of it, because when I read those things from Judge Nichols, my head exploded. I think it'd be fun to just spend an hour or two just really just ripping it apart of the realities of why this wasn't just. So stay tuned. I'll try and do that, or hopefully if you do it on your channel, happy to join you. Thank you again for being here. Enjoy your weekend, and everybody, thanks for watching. Make sure you've hit subscribe on both channels, hit the bell for all alerts, smash the like button, and leave a comment down below, and tell me who else out there we should be connecting with. Appreciate you guys so much. See you soon.